Okay, hello everyone. Let's go over today's problems. So these are the notes that we had on Inscribed Angles on page 108. And numbers 1 through 3 for the whiteboard problems are going to be similar to these. Now remember we said that the angle is equal to half the measure of the arc, or 2 times the angle is equal to the measure of the arc. So that was how you set up the problems on page 108. So example number 5, they gave us this for the angle, we multiplied it by 2, and then we could equal it to the arc measure. Just keep that idea in mind. So even if the angle is just a number, you're going to do 2 times the angle and equal it to the measure of the arc, and that will allow you to solve for x. Number 4 on the whiteboards was kind of similar, not really the same, but similar looking to number 6 on page 109. So we have multiple inscribed angles. This one happened to open up to the same arc, but the one on the whiteboards was a little different. So let's go over those. On page 110, you can title it Whiteboards, Inscribed Angles. And remember, we're going to focus on using the relationship that 2 times the angle, the inscribed angle, is equal to the arc. You could also use the formula dividing that 2 over. The angle is equal to half of the arc. So on some of my whiteboard questions on the back, you will see that I do use this one. However, I think this is the most relevant one for you to focus on. 2 times the angle equals the arc. That's usually the easiest. They're technically both the same, so either one you want to do. Okay, the first problem we had was this one. The angle measure was 53, and the arc was 11x minus 15. So I'll leave this up for a few seconds before I flip it over in case you haven't solved it yet. And if you would like time to solve it, go ahead and pause the video. I don't expect you to draw the diagram. So remember, these questions were posted to EDSB. You have access to the problems. If it helps you to draw a diagram, feel free to draw yourself a circle, label all the parts that we have here, but it's not necessary. Just be sure you're numbering them, 1 through 4. Okay, so for this one, I started off with this formula and then I multiplied the 2 over. So basically we could have just started with this guy, 2 times the angle equals the arc. So we have 106 equals the arc measure, 11x minus 15. Solving for x, you get x is 11. So add the 15 to 106 and then divide by 11. X is 11. So you'll write that on this page, the work for that, number 1. Okay, number 2. Using the inscribed angle theorem, we're going to find the measure of x and the measure of the angle. So remember, 2 times the angle equals the arc. Go ahead and complete this problem if you haven't already. Pause the video if you need more time. Okay, so solving this one, I did end up doing half of the arc, 24. You could have done 2 times the angle equal to the arc. We're going to end up with the same answer in the end. So if you want to see the work for multiplying the angle, this was number 2. We would have 2 times 5x plus 4 equal to the arc, 48. Okay, that was the picture. So distribute the 2 to both of those terms. 10x plus 8 equals 48. Subtract the 8, subtract the 8. 10x is equal to 40. And divide by 10. X equals 4. So that's how you find the value of x. I also wanted the measure of the angle. So we know that the arc divided by 2 would give you the angle measurement. So for your angle measure, you should have gotten 20 degrees. What am I doing? I need this 20 degrees. Or sorry, 24. Did I say 20? 24 degrees. Okay, that was number 2. The third problem. Boom. Same idea here. Multiply the angle by 2 and equal it to the arc. Go ahead, pause the video, solve it if you haven't already. Two times the angle, 2 times 33, 66, equal to the arc. Subtract the 6 over, divide by 12, x is 5. Okay, the last problem, a little bit more of a challenge for this one. How much greater is the measure of angle 1 than the measure of angle 2? So how much bigger is angle 1 compared to angle 2? Well, this one you might have wanted to draw out so you can easily see what happened. Okay, so angle 2 opens up to this arc. So that's an inscribed angle. Notice number 1 is not an inscribed angle. It's not on the edge of the circle. It's over here inside of the circle. Angle 2, we know is going to be half the measure of this arc because angle 2 is an inscribed. Whenever you have an inscribed angle, it's half the measure of its arc. So we need to figure out that arc measure before we can know what angle 2 is. We have almost all the other arcs all the way around the circle. We're just missing that yellow arc. So we know there's 360 degrees in an entire circle. So we need to take these arcs away from 360 to figure out this arc measure. So this was number 4. We're first finding the measure of angle 2. So we need to do 360 minus all of those other arcs. We had 115, we also had 110, and there was also 73 there. Okay, so that would give us 360 minus, I know that's 225, plus 73, we're going to subtract 298 from this. So we get 62 degrees for the arc measure. And from our formulas up at top, we know the angle is equal to half of the arc. So to find angle 2 is going to equal half of the arc. So now we know that angle 2 is 31 degrees. Okay, not quite there yet. We want to compare it to angle 1. So now we got to think of how we're going to figure out angle 1. Well, it's a theorem we haven't learned yet, but we do know about triangles. We have angle 1 and angle 2, and this angle up here is inside this triangle. And I can figure out that angle because it is inscribed, and it opens up to 110 degrees on the arc. The arc it opens up to is 110. So this angle is going to be half of its arc. So now we know that this angle is 55 degrees, half of 110. So writing that in notes, find missing angle in the triangle, because it's also inscribed. This angle is inscribed, it's on the edge of the circle, so we know that this angle measured is going to be half of the arc it opens up to. So that angle is going to be half 110, which is 55 degrees. So I'm just going to redraw this triangle. We have something like this. We're looking for angle 1. We just said this is 55. We said angle 2, which was right here, is 31. And we know that all the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So to find angle 1, we're going to do 180 minus 55 plus 31. So we have 180 minus 86, which will give us 94. Okay, so we know that angle 1 is 94 degrees. We know that angle 2 is 31 degrees. So let's go back and answer the question. How much greater is angle 1 than angle 2? How much bigger is angle 1 compared to angle 2? So we need to know the difference. 94 is how much greater than 31? Oops, 60. 94 minus 31 is 63. So to answer this tricky little question, we'll say angle 1 is 63 degrees greater than angle 2. Okay, and that was all the problems assigned today. So on this video, on our EDSB page, comment if you have any questions, comment your questions. You can message me. I can set up a Zoom if I see that there's a lot of questions, but this was just a review. So if you have questions, feel free to ask. Tomorrow we will start new material. All right, see you later.